Tuesday Night Live, talk like a chiropractor. So here's what I've got notes, but I'm probably going to just kind of go from the heart on this one. I'll tell you really what got me thinking about this, honestly, is my own personal experience here recently after Focus. You know, we went to the Focus meeting and we listened to all these amazing stories. We listened to the chiropractic story and we listened to students talk about learning about chiropractic. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about my own practice and how I communicated. And what happens is we end up through time, and I think it's just a slow progressive thing. I think a little bit at a time, we just kind of quit talking like chiropractors. We talk like everyday people. We might talk like doctors. What happens is we go to the latest seminar and we talk like them. And I think we quit talking about chiropractic. And in the beginning, Dr. Adam and I, we talked about this morning, is that sometimes in the beginning, you have this balance, right? You have this fear of judgment. We all have it, fear of somebody judging, especially when we're right out of school or we're a young doctor. Many of you haven't been in practice very long and you still have a problem talking about chiropractic or being confident or certain in who you are as a chiropractor. But what happens, necessity, finances, there's a lot of things that, a sense of urgency that comes over. They're like, well, I got to get over my fear or I'm not going to feed my family, right? I got to get over my fear or I'm going to fail in practice. And this is what happens is we got to get this balance, and I think what happens is for all of us, the balance of judgment and purpose, balance of judgment over purpose gets upside down. And then we quit speaking that way. When we're so worried about being judged, what happens is when we're talking to a patient in the office, we have a sense of hesitancy. We hold back. The tone of our voice is, well, it's kind of like this. Jerry comes in and, he's got a lower back pain and he's got this and he's got that. He has all these things. And you say, well, you know what? I tell you what, we should probably take some x-rays and let's look at those and let's see what those show us. And then we'll do an exam and then, let's see if we can help you feel better. Okay. That's what Jerry's hearing. Opposed to, and that is a fear of him judging you. You don't want to come across as knowing too much or being too forward or being judged by the things you say. Opposed to, all right, Jerry, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get some pictures of your spine. We're going to do some work. We're going to figure out what's causing this. You got any questions? I mean, there's a complete different tone and a way to speak. I see it all the time in reported findings. So many people, they just have, and matter of fact, I just had a conversation with a doctor that he struggles with giving the 32-visit treatment plan. And there's only one reason, fear of judgment. You're too worried that they're going to think that it's going to cost too much. That's all that it boils down to. I did a report of findings this morning, and I had a patient, she's got a prosthetic leg, and she has a hard time driving. She can't drive, and so her husband either drives her or her neighbor who brought her in drives her. And they live, about 45 minutes away. And I knew it was going to be tough for her. So when I did the report of findings, I said, Cindy, listen, I'm going to tell you the truth. It does me no good. It does me no good to tell you anything less. I said, you need to understand what's going to be best for you. And I'm going to talk to you just like you live across the street. And if you lived across the street, this would be the very best plan for you. I would see you 3 times a week, just like going to the gym and working out. There's no way we're going to get your spine stronger unless we're consistent. And we're going to do that for about 8 weeks. And when I said that, her face, she kind of looked up at me and I said, Cindy, when you break an arm, how long do you wear a cast? Well, about 8 weeks. I said, exactly. I said, if we want to get this thing to heal, we got to get an opportunity. And so I did my whole report. And she said, I'll talk to my husband. We'll get here. Now, in my brain, I had already kind of, figured that she was going to say, well, there's just no way I can get her that many times. Because she already told me that she had because she came as a new patient last week, like last Tuesday. Here it is Tuesday. It took her a week to get here because her neighbor had to bring her. But then when I gave her the report of findings, my tone and the things I said to her, I spoke to her like a chiropractor. And when I did that, she resonated with that. And I had faith and confidence in who I am And so then she had faith and confidence in me also, speaking like a chiropractor. You know, so I think sometimes the reason, gang, that we have a hard time speaking like chiropractors is because we kind of forget what we do. What we do as chiropractors. I think sometimes we get a little sidetracked and we think that, we're just best friends, and we're good old boys and good old girls, and we're just nice, and we work on people's backs, we make them feel better, especially our patients that have been coming into us for a long time. You know, what's interesting is we start seeing that, they come in and it's just another adjustment, it's just another manipulation or whatever, and you quit speaking like a chiropractor. You lose, we forget what it is we do. We forget who we are, we forget what we do, and we forget why we do it, all right? So I'm going to go into that a little bit. You know, what do we really do? Now listen, I'm going to backtrack this. I'm going to backtrack this a little bit. And we all need to remember this. Every one of you watching this now, watching this later, doesn't matter. If you're a chiropractor and you're watching this video, hear this. These people that get in their car or walk, drive, whatever they've got to do to get to your office, they walk in your office, and they walk in for one reason and one reason only. They do not walk in for any other reason other than a chiropractic adjustment, period. They come, and I don't care. Listen, everybody gets all bent out of shape. I come in to get my back cracked. I come in to get cracked. I come in to get popped or whatever. It's kind of funny. Some of our closest friends were over Sunday. We had a kind of a pool party, and their little boy, Henry, he's 6 now. And since he's able to talk, he's called me Dr. Pop, because he comes to see me, gets popped. I don't care what they call it. They're coming in for an adjustment. That's why they come. And so when they come in, you have to understand why you're adjusting them. Now, they know that they feel better. Plain and simple. Listen, I just don't know very many patients. If I was to quiz all of my patients after 30 years, and I said, give me a description on what it is that I do when I adjust you, when you come in. I come in and get my back popped, and I feel better. Doc, I feel better. My headaches are gone. As long as I come in, I can do this, I can do that. That's all they know. That's all they truly, really care about. What's my problem? Can you help me? How long will it take, and what will it cost? That's all they care about, right? We get it in our heads that they need to know all these other things. But then what happens is we start falling into that trap of feel better, make them feel better, pain relief. So we start thinking like our patients do. And that's what gets us in trouble. They don't want us to think like they do. Hell, if that was the case, they would just go to their neighbor and have them walk on their back. You're supposed to be a doctor. You're supposed to have authority. You're supposed to talk with conviction, certainty, and presence, right? That's what they come to expect. They want you to adjust them, but they want you to know why you adjust. They want you to speak with intelligence and authority and conviction, right? And when you lose that, you're not speaking like a chiropractor anymore. You're just speaking like anybody else. Anybody else that just talks to them. And that's where we get in trouble, because then they lose respect. If they, everybody, so many times what we want to do is we want them to like us. They come in and we try to be charming and want them to like us. I love my patients. I want them to like me. I want them to love me. But more than that, I want them to respect me. And they're absolutely not going to respect me if I don't speak like a chiropractor, right? It's just that damn simple. And you got to ask yourself, are you speaking with authority? Do you believe you? And I think this is, I know this is probably the number one issue with chiropractors not growing their practice, is when people come to see them, they do not speak with a chiropractic authority. Now, I don't want you to speak with a nutrition authority or a, marriage counseling authority or child raising authority or religious authority or authority on, OU football or whatever that may be. That's not why they came. They don't care about that stuff. It says chiropractic on your sign. They come to see their chiropractor. My patients say all the time, I was telling somebody that, I need to get to the chiropractor. They didn't say I need to go see Dr. Young. They said, I need to get to the chiropractor. which means they want to come to see a chiropractor, be a chiropractor. But when you speak, you got to speak with authority, and you got and the authority, the way you speak comes from, do you believe you? Do you believe in chiropractic so much? I know some of you seen some of my videos. One of them got like 20,000 views and the other like 10,000. And I rattled some cages. I had people taking my video, and I didn't know, and playing it, and then they had their video underneath, like making faces and pointing at me and doing all kinds of crazy things. I'd seen that, but I'd never had it done to me. And I thought it was kind of funny, actually. And these evidence-based, quote unquote, doctors were just having a field day with me talking about seeing miracles in your office. They don't like that. They don't want me to talk about, seeing asthma and diabetes and all the diseases that many of us have witnessed in our practice, go away with chiropractic. We watch the body heal those things, but they don't want to talk about that. I don't care. I'm going to speak with authority at all times because I believe in chiropractic that much. And it's not even a belief. It's like Dr. Gibson said. He said, Tim, I don't believe in chiropractic. I know chiropractic. That you can't take it away from us. And I'm going to ask you, every one of you guys that's out there right now, I'm going to ask you guys, are you speaking with authority? Do you believe in what you say? That's it's a really simple question. When you're in the office, are you speaking from a place of certainty and chiropractic authority, or are you just trying to get through the day, or are you just trying to get them to like you? I mean, I want you guys to ask the tough questions, right? I want you to really pay attention to what's going on. All right. Here's the thing, and this is one of the things that really got my attention during Focus is when Patty, I know you're on here. I hope you're still on here. I didn't lose everybody. You and your daughters, you played the videos of your dad, Fred Barge, and he said something that I never heard another chiropractor say. And when it comes from Dr. Barge, I take it as gospel. He said, your faith creates courage, and courage creates charisma. And when you go in, you're seeing this charismatic doctor. That charisma it's attracting. It's like a magnet. People want to be around people with charisma, right? Well, where does that come from? Well, it comes from faith and courage. You got to have the faith in chiropractic and know that if I make a chiropractic adjustment, then the body has the potential to heal itself of anything. And that means something to me. I care. I care that much. I've been reading Lasting Purpose. It's a Mindset for Success, Dr. Sid Williams. It's an old book he wrote a long time ago, and I've been reading it. And one of the things that he keeps talking about is having a deep love. And when he says love, it's not necessarily a specific love for any one thing or any one person. It is this love. It is a deep personal love inside of you. And that's how he speaks. Well, when you have that, then you have faith in chiropractic, and you have faith in yourself as a chiropractor, and then you have the courage to speak. When you have the courage to speak and deliver your message, then that creates a charisma about you. It's something very special. And it doesn't have to be, this is what's important, it doesn't have to be like I am. I'm loud and straight up front, right? That's just who I am. But, I know other chiropractors, I know female chiropractors that are very quiet, and they're kind of reserved, but when they speak, the words that they say are powerful. They hold weight because every word they say, they have faith in that. They have a belief. They have an understanding that this is true. And when you speak the truth with a conviction, that creates the charisma. And then people want that. People want that. And here's the thing, you're going to attract those people that want to come into your office. And again, then that all leads to speaking to them with authority. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, and I'm going to talk about you can speak the message, and this might be a little, I don't know, I'm just going to say it anyway, a little unsettling to some of you, but you got to look like a chiropractor. Man, you got to look like a chiropractor. What does that mean? I know, Dr. Sigerfoos, he was this is back in the 70s, he wore Hawaiian shirts and had long hair and round glasses, and I don't quite know what he looked like. Big beard, whatever. But I just feel like you've got to represent yourself. You're going to be representing. So you're a chiropractor, and we adjust and we allow the innate intelligence of the body to express, with amplified life, like Elisha says. Well, but we're also, in the eyes of our patient, we are representing healthcare. We are representing healthy. And in my opinion, you should look and appear healthy, because they're not going to, you can't speak from authority of this is what's best for you when you look like you don't represent any of that, right? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I put it down here because, you know, I'm really, actually, I put it in the book. I'm real close to getting the book done, okay? And there was a whole chapter on, you know, walking your talk. You are, the way you appear and what you represent as a professional is so powerful. It represents the entire profession, right? And 99% of all chiropractors, especially in this group, we ain't got to worry about that, but you guys know what I'm talking about. I know chiropractors, I know chiropractors that are 200 and 300 pounds overweight, and they're never going to have a big practice. Physically, they can't do it, but if you was to come in and see, you know, 450 pound chiropractor, you would think, you know, it's no different than going to a medical doctor and, you know, and he's, you know, on a bunch of medications and, you know, he's got a coffee in one hand, a cigarette in the other. He's going to give you health advice. You wouldn't listen to that. So I wanted to put that out there and make sure that you guys are taking that serious. When you show up to the office, are you presentable? Are you prepared? Are you ready? Are you physically and mentally and emotionally ready to deliver the charisma in your conversation that you need to do, speaking like a chiropractor? So let's talk a little bit about, and we did a whole Tuesday night live about this, but I want to kind of bring it up a little bit again, handling the skeptics. And this came up because I have young doctors that get really, really upset about patients saying certain things, or they get a bad Google review or whatever that may be. Listen, I get it. And when I was younger in practice, I had a chip on my shoulder. You know, anybody question chiropractic, question me, I would bow up. But the problem was I wasn't articulate enough, and I didn't have enough experience to truly be able to handle it and have a good response. You know, and some of you have heard me talk about this before. I'm going to bring it up again. Years and years ago, when I probably first 3, 4, 5 years of practice, if somebody would have said this, I would have been rattled. I would have slowed down. I would have tried to explain. I would have spent 20 minutes with this woman. Had a lady, and this is about 10 years ago, had a lady that, and we were moving. I mean, we probably saw, I don't know, 240, 250 that day. And it was just one of those days. And I had a lady sitting in the hot seat right outside my door, and I opened the door and I went to call the next patient, and she stood up with her purse and her arms crossing her arms, and she looked around and she said, "Well, you were just herding us in and out of here like cattle." Now, years ago, before that, I would have really been rattled. I would have been flustered. And all I did was start laughing. I started laughing and I said, "Well, I found out that it works for farmers." And everybody in the waiting room started laughing. Oh, it made her mad. I can't remember specifically. I'm pretty sure she just left. And then the patients were coming in like, you know, that was funny, doc. You know, I said, some people that have more time on their hands than everybody else. I know you're busy. Let's get you back in the game. And they go, "That's what we want. That's why we're here, doc." You know, listen, handling a skeptic, it doesn't matter. As long as you feel like and you believe in your heart that you're telling them the truth, tell the truth and deliver on it, as long as you're doing that, then it doesn't matter what they think. It's irrelevant. It's not your responsibility how they respond to it. If I tell somebody, it's like several years ago, I used to have a bunch of, before we remodeled the office, I had a bunch of posters up, and it was vaccine posters about vaccines. And I had a guy come in, and he come in the door in my office, and I shut the door, and he said, "Dr. Young, I don't think that I can come back here anymore." And it kind of caught me off guard. And I said, "Really? Why?" He goes, "Well, all this anti-vaccine propaganda you're putting on the walls." He said, "You do know I'm a teacher at UCO." I didn't laugh, but I wanted to. He's a teacher at a junior college, and so he's got the authority on vaccines. I don't know. And I go, "Well, what is it about it that you don't agree with?" He said, "Vaccines are the greatest invention of our century." He said, "It has saved millions of lives." And I said, you truly believe that? And I said, you've done the research to back that up. I said, they wouldn't put them out there if it wasn't true. I just opened my door and I said, you're absolutely right. This probably isn't the right place for you. Now, 10 years before that, that would have been a 45-minute conversation trying to, debate him on this. You're not going to win that debate. First of all, he's already made his mind up. Second of all, I got too many people waiting. I don't need that debate. And I don't want anybody in there that's offended by that anyhow. So I just opened the door and he walked out. I never saw him again. So what I'm getting at is when you're confident and you're certain and you have a true belief in the things you say, whether someone else believes it or not, whether they want to argue with you or not, whether it is quote unquote politically correct, I don't care. If you believe it, speak it. Speak it and stand by it. Stand your ground. If people get upset and they get ruffled or they get offended, fine. They don't belong in your circle. They can go be offended somewhere else. But as long as you're talking the truth, then you're going to be just fine. But the only reason you ever have a skeptic that rattles you is because you allow it. Not everybody has to believe you. It's okay. Move on. All right. Encourage accountability. So when you're a chiropractor, I want you to encourage your patients to follow through. I want you to encourage your patients to continue coming for their adjustments. And what I mean by that is I have patients that will come in that, every 2 weeks and they say, Doc, I feel great. I haven't had any pain or any problems in the last 2 weeks. I said, great. Let's keep it that way. I said, listen, we're going to keep your spine moving. I don't ever want this to come back. Let's make sure we maintain this. Hold them accountable, right? You don't have to browbeat them. You don't have to educate them. You don't have to do all those things, but you simply want to hold them accountable for their health, right? It's why they come. It's the most important thing is you got to remember they didn't come. And I put this down there. It is what you're saying. Is it for you or is it for them? Give that a second. You have to remember, you don't need new patients. They need you. You don't need patient visits. They need you. And when you speak as a chiropractor, are you speaking to hear yourself talk, to make yourself sound smart, or to make yourself comfortable? That's probably the biggest thing, gang. Are you speaking to your patients to make it comfortable for you in the office? Tell them what they want to hear. Say the things that they can accept pretty easily. Why don't you just, you're adjusted, you adjusted good. Why don't you just come back in a month? If you need anything, let me know. Just basically do what you want to. Doc, my insurance quit paying and this is expensive. I understand. I tell you what, just pay what you want to. Just go up and tell the girls I said $20. See, that's not talking like a chiropractor. I had a patient today that she comes in once a week. Her name's Tony. She works in a dental office. And she came in today. She said, Doc, I'm going to have to put my care on pause for a while. And I said, yo, what's going on, Tony? She said, well, I'm getting ready to do a bunch of dental work. It's going to be about $16,000. And then my air conditioner went out. And she said, I can't afford it. And what's funny was she looked at me and she paused. And I know what she was doing. She was waiting for me to discount it or give it to her or tell her, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Just come in anyway. I said, okay, Tony. I said, I understand. I get it. I said, I will be here when you're ready. And she kind of paused and I said, whenever you're ready to come back, I'll be right here. And okay, well, I'll see you. Okay, Tony. No, listen, I'm not responsible for her dental work. I'm not responsible for her care. Neither are you. Listen, you got to remember that your only responsibility is to tell them the truth and deliver on it. And that truth has got to come from a place of certainty. It's got to come from somewhere inside of you that you've done the work. Listen, I've got my green book, Our Masterpiece. I'm reading it for the second time. I've got a bunch of them. I'm reading Lasting's Purpose. I mean, gang, I have so much chiropractic surrounding me at all times. And this is why this group is so important. We've got, oh my gosh, so many new members. We've had, 15 new members in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And welcome to all of you that are on here, but some of you are in Australia and other places. But what what I understand and why this group is so important is that this is why you got to stay involved. This is why you got to watch the Tuesday Night Live videos or schedule coaching calls or watch the videos over and over. Get accountability groups. I know Shannon and Katie and much of you guys got accountability groups and you check on each other. I stay surrounded in chiropractic. And so even with that, I realized in my office, I wasn't speaking like a chiropractor. I was speaking like someone that adjusts people, but I wasn't speaking like a chiropractor. That's different. That's Dr. Sid, he talked like a chiropractor. Dr. Palmer, BJ, he talked like a chiropractor. These guys, when they spoke, it come from somewhere special. Dr. Gibson, I promise you, when he spoke to a patient, there was no gray area. There was no easing into it. This is the way it is, right? And that's what separates the big practices from the practices that are just going through the motions. And so I want you guys to think about that as you're going through your day. I want to tell you about a couple of patients that really set the tone for this. Two of them were today. It's crazy. They've been coming in for so long that their children were all babies when I first started adjusting them. Now I'm taking care of all their children's kids that are, Kimberly, she's getting ready to start the sixth grade. So think about that. Her mother was a baby. Now she's in the sixth grade. That's how long I've been taking care of this family. And Jeff and Annette came in today and they're getting ready to leave. And they told me that they leave Sunday. They're going to Mexico in a camper, and for 7 days, no electricity, no cell phones, unplugged, just the two of them. I was like, how beautiful is that? And they said, well, we need to get our adjustment before we take off, and we'll be here as soon as we get back. And I said, man, I'm so happy for the both of you. So I adjusted Annette, I adjusted Jeff, and I stood him up. And Jeff turns and looked at me and he said, I don't know how you do it, but we've been coming for probably 25 years now. No, actually, they've been coming for about almost 30 years. And they were some of my very first patients. And he said, and you just keep getting better. He said, you've never backed off a day. And it kind of caught me off guard, and these people are like family. I've known them for, everybody's grown up in my office. Kind of caught me off guard. And I just said, Jeff, I said, that's how important you are to me. I want you to listen to what I just said. That came to me not as a cliche or just a quick comeback or referral statement. That family means everything to me. Jeff and Annette Wilterding and Gretchen and her husband and all those kids and Spencer, her other kid, all of them. Man, you think about spending time with watching families grow up in your office. Should you not give them the best version of you? Dr. Gibson says this, the adjustment is an extension of who you are to them. And if you're going to give a piece of you, shouldn't it be the finest version of you that you can create? Yes, it should at all times. And when you do that, or in order to do that, you've got to constantly remind yourself that you're a chiropractor. You're not their friend. You're not their best friend. You're not the guy down the street just hanging out. You are a chiropractor. Now, there are people with chiropractic degrees, and then there are chiropractors. And I will be honest, I slipped and I turned into the guy I was, good old Dr. Young. He's nice to everybody. He's the chiropractor. The guy with the chiropractic degree, he works in there. And then when I came back, I flipped that switch because I realized it, and I started speaking chiropractic. And I started speaking as a chiropractor, and my tone changed, and the words that I used changed. And that leads me to the next patient I want to tell you guys about, and then we will, hopefully, I'll see if I can find a way to get questions on this. Maybe I can do it here. We got 17 comments. There we go. So, yeah, you guys, listen, you guys can ask comments, go on the questions, ask comments, and then I will read them off of my computer. I can't read them on my phone. So if you're going to have questions, post them on here, and I will see to it that I look at those. But with that being said, last thing I want to tell you guys about is a patient that came in 3 weeks ago, and she'd never been to a chiropractor before. Well, she'd been to one years ago, and he scared her, and she said she'd never go back. And it was a crazy story, but I don't blame her for not going back. She said, I'll never see another chiropractor. But what happened was she got, it wasn't really vertigo. It was more, it was where she was just super, super dizzy, you know, and it got so bad that it was creating migraine headaches, and she was almost debilitated. And she had already been to 2 or 3 other doctors, and they were running tests, and they were doing this, and they were doing that, and they were trying to give her all these different medications, and nothing was working. So her friend ended up bringing her to see me. I'm very skeptical. And I did the consultation, and I said, and you know, this was after what I'm telling you guys about, after I realized that, before that, I might have kind of downplayed it, like this nonchalantly talked to her about it. I didn't nonchalant anything. I told her, I said, listen, you're in the right place. What you've got is the occiput, the base of your skull is sitting down on the very top bone called the atlas, and it is shutting off the proprioception, probably shutting off the proper blood oxygen to your brain. No wonder you're having these problems. I got you. I got you. And she just looked and she goes, are you sure? Absolutely. So I said, let me show you. I laid her on her back, and this was during the exam. And I said, I'm gonna put motion in this area. I want to show you what we're gonna do, but I gotta test this joint. And I set that occiput, and her eyes got as big as saucers. And she yelled, and then I held onto her head after I adjusted her. I just held her, and I said, you're fine, calm down. And then she realized that she was still alive, and I helped her up, and I said, listen, this isn't gonna go away right away. And you're probably gonna be a little bit sore with this. We've got this. And I'm gonna study your x-ray, I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss anything, I want you back tomorrow. Are you sure? Word for word, I'll never forget it. She looked at me with this, are you sure? Now, 2 weeks prior, it would have been a conversation. This time, yes, ma'am. I have no doubts. Just like that. Helped her up. She left the office. She comes back the next day. She said, I have to admit, that afternoon I felt pretty good, but I woke up feeling just as bad. I'm going to show you why. And then I went over her x-rays. I went over her care plan, and I adjusted her, and I said, this didn't just happen. I know you started having this problem 2 weeks ago. This has been there for a long time. Long story short, I know I'm dragging this out, but I wanted you to get the point of where this is a very skeptical person with a pretty serious condition. And had I been nonchalant about it, had I not spoken like a chiropractor, like someone with chiropractic degree, she wouldn't have come back. But because my level of certainty was so high, and I was so just adamant that yes, you're in the right place. And then she came in. She came in a few days later, and she come through the door, and she said, I got to tell you something. Yesterday was the worst day I have ever had in my life. I thought I was going to die. Yesterday was horrible. My head hurt, and this and that. And she kept on and on. I listened to her, and she finally stopped, and I said, good. And she looked at me like I was insane. I said, good. I don't want you to have the worst day, but I want it to change. And what this is telling me is you are in the healing process. Your body is changing. It's repairing. That's what you're feeling. And then I simply said, how do you feel today? She goes, well, that's what's crazy. I feel pretty good today. Face down. So then yesterday she comes in, and she's smiling, and she bounces through that door. She's 60, she's almost 70 years old. She's late 60s, almost 70. She's springing through the door. She said, Dr. Young, you're getting ready to get a lot more patients. I'm telling everybody at church. Matter of fact, I know for a fact someone's already called and scheduled. She said, I'm telling everybody. She said, they're all asking me what happened because they all been praying for me because I've been so sick. I haven't been to church. I haven't got to go. And I've been on a church prayer list. And then I come in and I look like this, and what happened? And she said, I had a miracle, and his name is Dr. Young. And when she said that, this was yesterday, and I thought, I've got to share this with the group. Here's the thing. This is why I share it. First of all, it's chiropractic. It's the adjustment. It's what we do. But had I went into this with a nonchalant person with a chiropractic degree, no certainty, she wouldn't have come back. she would have had no confidence and certainty in me. She wouldn't have believed me. She would have left and went, this guy's crazy. He doesn't even believe in what he's saying. But because I had so much certainty, and I looked her in the eye, and my tone of my voice, my posture, the vibration of who I was on the inside, a chiropractor, came out. I had enough of that quote unquote charisma to carry her out the door and to make her want to come back. Even after she had the worst day she had ever had, she come back. Right? All right. That's what I want you guys to understand. If you want them to come back, if you have in this practice that they're coming in, you're getting new people in through marketing or whatever, but they're not coming back, they're not following through, it's because you're practicing like a person with a chiropractic degree, not a chiropractor. Speak like a chiropractor and watch your practice turn around. All right? Okay, that's the message for tonight. I hope, and I apologize for the beginning. I don't know what happened. I'm going to have to do some work on my silly computer, but at least we got on here and got it done. So, are there any, Jake, you got a question right here. All right, Brother Jake, listen. Would love a better way to handle the other spouse or kids of patients who come into the office but don't get adjusted. I'm so on fire about chiropractic, it might bother me that they are. This is a good one. I'm glad you always remind myself to only focus on those swimming towards chiropractor, but I know it's hard. Listen, Jake, great question. Here's what I do. And I've done this a lot. I'll have a mom and she'll have her daughter with her. This has happened quite a bit here recently. And she'll be sitting there. And the first thing I do when they first start coming in, especially the kids, like I had, today, 2 or 3 of them, I always talk to them. They're watching me adjust their parents. They're like, what's going on? And I just talk to them. I just talk to the kids. I say, are you getting ready to start school? I like your shoes. And what grade are you in? Just whatever, get them to talk and immediately, okay, well, this guy's actually normal and he's talking to me. Well, then when they come back the next time, Jake, then what I'll say is, and I'll say, hey, would you like to get your adjustment too? And I'll look at mom and go, this was on me. And a lot of times, 8 out of 10 times, they want to. And they'll get up on the table and you're just very gentle. You just give them a little bit of adjustment and you set them up and go, oh, you're growing so big, you really needed that. And then you look at mom and go, she really needed that. Why don't you go up and fill out some paperwork on her, and then that way we can get her in the system, and then we'll get her scheduled. That happens all the time. I will have parents bring their kids in, and I will say, you do know that this is good for parents too, right? Yeah, we know. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have the girls send the paperwork home with you, fill it out. When you're ready, because I promise you the parents need it as much as the kids do, because you got to take care of them, just let me know. And then there are times that I'll have a husband sitting there or the wife sitting there, and I'll just say, I'll tell you what, let's check your mid back. I mean, the way you're sitting, I said, I know your mid back's tight. This is on me. Let me check it. And then they lay face down, and they almost always they do, like, they say, oh, no, come on. It's just on me. Just let me check it. And you just palpate and just did a little 2, 4, 5, just a little adjustment, and tell them to sit up. So I'll tell you what, I want you to let me know when you come back in next time, let me know how that feels. You would be amazed on how many times they go up front, they fill out the paperwork, they come back as a new patient. It happens all the time. So Jake, what you got to do is remember, you will catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Just be kind. Offer one adjustment. Tell them that you're there to help. Just get them involved with the visit, and the more involved they get with the visit, the more apt they are to become. Right now, they're just not quite sure. Sometimes it's a money thing. Just a money thing. But if you ever get that one adjustment, it takes care of everything. Okay, hope that helps. All right, Evan, I've been finding it difficult lately to walk in the line or telling people I'm going to help them with such an obvious issue. Oxford sitting on C1 causing headaches versus telling people I don't care about your symptoms, I care about your function. Listen, good point. You don't necessarily want to address the actual condition. What you want to do is, like I told her, I said, I got this. You have the ability to heal. But here's the thing. You may say function, but from this lady that had this, let's just call it vertigo, because I'm forgetting the word I want to use for dizziness, and then the headaches, If you said function to her, she would tell you to take your function and stick it. She wants this gone. And so what you've got to do is you've got to give her certainty and confidence that ma'am, you're in the right place. No one else has helped you. I got you. And Evan, I know what you're saying, that you've got to be careful about saying, I can fix your headaches and fix it. I didn't tell her I was going to fix anything. I said, you're in the right place. I got you. I'm going to move that bone, but I have so much certainty and confidence that 91%, 92, 93% of every patient that I adjust is going to get well. Now, that 7 or 8%, I've got one right now with, she's got a real bad C5, and I've adjusted her 5 or 6 times. It's just not getting better. And I am rocking it, and she's coming in hell. I ordered an MRI, and she's going in the morning. I said, we're missing something. I said, maybe not. Maybe it's just going to take more time, but I'm not going to keep doing this if I don't feel like we're gaining on it. I have no problem with that. And if this lady was getting worse then I'm sending her for an MRI or more scans or whatever. But man, I tell you what, I'm going to give chiropractic a try first. And I am very confident. Evan, listen, I am absolutely certain and confident in my ability to deliver an adjustment. I am absolutely certain and confident in the power of chiropractic. There's where my certainty comes from, and that's what I say. I'm not going to tell her I'm going to fix anything, but I'm going to say you are in the right place, and I will say I've got you. All right. I hope that helps. Because what they're wanting is they're wanting some confidence in you, right? Jordan, how do we handle excessive cancellations or reschedules? 30 on Monday. I'm making sure it's not a procedure thing that's allowed for it. I can understand that we need to focus on the patient in front of us, but I'm wanting to fill the leaks. Jordan, listen. I think I answered it tonight. Now it could be something else, but if you're having that many cancellations, more than likely is they're not resonating with your office. They don't believe in your office. There's something about the energy. There's something about the communication, the articulation that it might be just a little nonchalant. It might just be if they want to, if they don't. This might work, this might not. I'm not saying that's what it is, Jordan, but I have a feeling from what I've seen in my own practice and other practices that, and doctors that I know, if you approach it with, yeah, we can help you, or you're in the right place. I've got you. I need you here tomorrow, and we're going to do this again. We're going to restore the proper motion, but I can't help you unless you're here. I'll see you tomorrow. Right? There's different ways of approaching it. There's different energies. And so, Jordan, what I want you to do is I want you to come at it. I want you to look at your office, and that goes for your staff and your team and everybody in there. You all have to have the same energy, right? So make sure that you guys would have that chiropractic energy, not just a chiropractic office energy, right? Or an office that has a doctor with a chiropractic degree, if that makes sense. All right. So make sure you're looking at that. All right. We got any more questions? I'm trying to bring them all up. Let's see. Got any more questions, gang? 24 comments. There we go. Erin, haven't dealt with this, but she, oh, wait a minute. That's the wrong one. I'm sorry. All right. I think we got everybody. I'm making sure. Welcome, Jordan. Any other questions? I don't see anyone. All right. So if you have any more questions, I want you to send those to me personally. Making sure everybody looks like they're on here. Appreciate you guys. And again, hang on, Joey. What care plan do you recommend? Hang on. What care plan do you recommend for patients who have been coming for years and have a flare? A lot of times, Joey, what I'll do is I'll put them on 12, twice a week for 6 weeks. I do that a lot. They've been old patients. They've been coming in off and on. They haven't been in for a long time. They've got a flare. Now it depends on what it is. If it's just like a rib or something simple, then it's 12 visits, twice a week for 6 weeks, and then I'll see them once a week for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I'll say, look, every 2 weeks. If they've got a brand new condition, X-rays, exam, 32 visits, and I do that a lot. And, in 30 years, I probably have as many reactivations as I do new patients, right? I have a ton of them. But for what you're talking about, what you're talking about is, hang on, Darren, what time do you come? What you're talking about is the ones that just have the flare-ups, all right? So I always do 12 visits. I hope that helps. Dr. Reggiani, what do you do when you have a 1 hour no patient? Okay, clean your office, make sure it's spotless, sit where they sit, listen to what they listen to, look where they look, prepare for the next one to come in. I don't know how many times I've got through the years, I'll get a dust rag and pledge and start doing my baseboards in my adjusting room, and a patient will come in. Almost always happens. But if you get your office clean, you're prepared, prepare your office for them, then, get a book, leave it put it in your office and pick it up and read chiropractic and start preparing your brain, your heart, and your soul for the next patient that comes in. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't get on Facebook. Don't start reading Golf Magazine or whatever. Make sure it's chiropractic. Make sure it has something to do with what you're doing. I used to have Are You the Doctor in my office, and when I had downtime, which I don't have much now, but if I had downtime, I'd read Are You the Doctor? I did that a lot, okay? Charles, is it rude when a patient asks, how you doing, to say, well, face down, and not ask them about how, you know what? No, it's not rude, Charles. How's Doc today? Man, I'm absolutely doing amazing. Let's see how you're doing. Couldn't be better. Really? Absolutely. Face down. Let's see what's going on with you. That's how I put it. You don't want to strike up that conversation, Charles. It's not rude. Now, you don't want to come across rude. Fine, face down. You don't want to do that. But if you came in and said, hey, Doc, how's Dr. Young today? I always say the same thing. Having the best day ever, Charles. Absolutely amazing. Doing great. Man, I tell you what, let's see how you're doing. And then, or sometimes they'll say, how's Doc? Well, no, the question is, let's see how you are, right? I always turn it back on them. As long as you're talking about them, then it's never rude, okay? Brother Cody, you're welcome. Everything's good. Katie, appreciate you. All right, Doc, listen, Martine, when you're reading, though, as long as you're reading chiropractic, the principle, the philosophy that, how to stay in that chiropractic mindset, it shouldn't take you away. It should bring you closer to. Make sure you're reading the right things, okay? All right. Any other questions? I hope I got everybody. I'm trying to make sure. It looks like we might have got everybody. All right, we're going to call it. We're going to call it a night. It is 7:56. Again, I so apologize to all of you for the problem in the beginning, but I think this one worked. If you need me, reach out. I will see you guys in the morning on our Wednesday morning wake up. Make sure to schedule your coaching calls. Make sure you guys are scheduling for Kansas City. Don't miss that one. Garrett Gunderson, and we're going to have a special guest, Mark, that's going to come in. Let's talk about real estate investing. We're going to break down how to run a successful practice and how to create abundance, how to create wealth. And then we're also going to have the experts there to tell you what to do with it. That way it will continue into the future. All right? Schedule for Kansas City. Schedule for Cabo next year. We've got the link out already for the Cabo trip. Don't miss that. That's going to be a great time. All right. Have an amazing evening. I love you all.